Hey guys, I wanted to go over a constraint setup with you guys one more time, just so you have this handy for review. So I've gone ahead and I've posed Hercules here, attempting to lift Thor's hammer. So what I want to do is I want to constrain this right arm to the hammer so that when he pulls on it, the hand sticks here to the handle of the hammer. So you'll notice that the right arm is set up as an IK arm versus the left arm, which is still FK. We don't need the left arm to be IK because it's not interacting with any objects. So it's always preferable to animate your arms FK because they'll make more naturalistic arcs. And it's easier to edit them in the graph editor. So as long as your arms and your hand are not interacting with objects or the environment in any way, it's okay to leave these. It's best to leave your arms in FK mode. But because this arm is going to be interacting with the hammer, we've switched it to IK mode. So on the picker, you can select the FK arms and FK controls here on the left side. The FK controls are on the top of the arm. The IK controls are on the bottom. But on the left arm, these are obviously hidden because we have got this in FK mode. On the right side, to select the controls with the picker, you're going to be using the controls down here on the bottom because the ones on the top are FK. He also has, it's quite brilliant, he's got a little menu that pops up here when you use these body mech rigs. I'm going to tear it off here. He has several things here. You can mirror your poses, only for the limbs, not for the center of the body. And you have an IK FK switch here, which will snap the poses for you. But we're not going to need to use that in this example. We'll use that in another example. We just need this right arm to be IK and the left arm to be FK for our purposes today. So this control right here is the sort of root control for the hammer. And you'll notice that when you rotate it, it rotates from the middle of this handle here. The way we've got this posed out, we really want to be rotating the hammer from the bottom of this handle. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a locator. We're going to call this locator hammer Loki. And I'm going to go over here to these channels, and I'm using my left mouse button. I'm going to highlight all three of these. And then I'm going to move my mouse here into the window, the viewport over here. And using the middle mouse button, I'm going to scale this locator up. And we still can't see it because I need to go under here to show and click on locators. But now you can see it's really large and it's easy for us to locate. So we can select it on screen because I have, in our selection masks, I have this question mark clicked on, toggled on. I also have the curves toggled on. So right now you can't select geometry, which is good. We don't want to select geometry. But we can select controls, curves, which are the controls for our rigs. And we can select locators. If we click this off, you'll notice that now I can select the curves, but I cannot select the locator. So you want to have this question mark in the selection mask up here toggled on. Okay, so this we've labeled hammer Loki, but it's all the way over here. So if we constrain it to the hammer right now, it's not going to, the hammer won't rotate from the base of the handle. So we need to get this locator right over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this control on the hammer, and then I'm going to hit Shift and select, drag select the locator. It's important the order that you select these things in. You want to select the thing you're snapping the locator to first. So I'm going to select this control on the hammer. I'm going to Shift select the locator, and now I'm going to use my snap button to snap the two of them together. For those of you interested, the snap button are these two lines. So if you copy these two lines and drag them up to your shelf and make it a Mel button, you too will also have a snap button. Just make sure you label it by selecting the settings over here, this little gear, and go to Shelf Editor. And because it's the last button, the furthest to the right, you'll scroll down in your Shelf Editor and you'll click on this, and I can go to the icon label and call this Snap. And there we go, got a snap button. So now we have this locator. It's here. It's still, we want it to be a little bit further down. So I am going to hit the W for my manipulator, my translation manipulator, and I'm going to push it down so that it's more at the base of this handle and in the center of Hercules' hand. So that's really where I want this hammer to rotate from. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to select the locator first, and then I'm going to select the hammer, and I'm going to come up here to Constraint, Parent. I'm going to hit the option box. I'm going to make sure Maintain Offset is on, and Translate and Rotate, and I'm going to go ahead and apply the constraint. I'm going to click off, and then go ahead and click on the control, which is now constrained to that locator, and you'll see that the translate and rotation channels have turned green, and you have this new channel which is called Blend Parent 1, and it automatically is toggled on. I'm going to select it here with the left mouse button, and I'm going to hit S to key that. This is going to become important when I show you how to animate a constraint on and on when we toss a ball up in the air and catch it. So it's really important to label the things that you have inside the outliner, these locators, and any object that you add to a scene. It helps the people who come after you in the pipeline to analyze your shot and make any changes they need to. So this is handy if, say, you get sick and you need to hand your shot off to another animator, so they don't spend half the day figuring out what controls and objects were animated. So they only need to make a few changes. If you've got everything labeled, it'll be really easy for them to figure out what's going on. So right now, if I select this control, and I'll just show you an example, because this thing is already constrained, you can move it. But when we come down here to the timeline and we scrub through it, you'll see it pops right back to where it was when we constrained it. So you want to make sure you've got your pose in place. So even though it seems like you can move things around, this key is not going to save because it's a constrained object, and it's going to, I moved the locator there. Let's move this. So when you move it around, it looks like, oh, this is fine, but then you go to your next key to block it out, and this will pop right back because it's a constrained object. So to manipulate the hammer now, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to use this locator. So this locator is going to be something that we will be animating and setting keys to. And we'll go over that a little bit later after we finish setting up the constraints. So now we've got the hammer constrained to this locator, which we've called hammer Loki. But now we need to constrain the IK, the right IK arm control to the hammer. To do that, we're going to select this hammer locator, and we're going to duplicate it by hitting Command D twice. Now I'm going to change the name of these to right arm Loki. And then the second one I'm going to call right arm Loki 2. Now I'm going to, so I made two because I want to have a buffer. I want to have, in case, you know, we're swinging the hammer around and there's any risk of gimbal control. By having two controls, one right on top of the other, we can separate out those rotational channels. And it will help prevent gimbal, and will also allow us to make small adjustments to the grip of the hand on this hammer, on this handle. So, which happens naturally when you're wielding something like this, without breaking the constraint and still making it look like it's a believable, believably in his hand. So I'm going to, I've got the right arm loci over here selected. Oh wait, it's misspelled. Right arm loci 2. I'm going to, with my middle mouse button, I'm going to drag it on top of the first one. So what I've done is I've made loci 2 the child of loci 1. Now I'm also going to take loci, the right arm loci, and using the middle mouse button, I'm going to drag it onto hammer loci, making it the child of the hammer loci. So now if I select this locator and I rotate it, I'm actually rotating all of those locators too. But the arm's still not connected, so let's connect the arm now. What I want to do is I want to select this bottom one. If I do any of these, then we won't have the buffer and these will be useless. So we want to select the one on the bottom. I'm going to hit Q to get rid of the manipulator, making it easier for me to select other controls on the screen. So over here I've got the right arm loci 2 selected in the outliner. I'm going to hit Shift and select the right arm IK control here. And again, I'm going to choose to parent constraint, maintain the offset with translate and rotate on, and hit apply. Okay, so now when I select this locator at the top and I move it, it moves the arm and the locator and the hammer. The arm and the hammer are being moved with this locator. Also, same with this one. This one's just moving the arm. Okay, it's not going to move the hammer with it. This one will also move the arm and rotate the arm. Okay, so we can make little adjustments inside here to the grip if necessary. But this top one is going to move the two of them together. All right. So now when it comes to blocking in our character, it's super important that we set a key on all the controls. If we forget to add these in, it's going to be problematic when we go to in between our shots. So in the blocking phase, we need to have a button that selects everything. So for our character inside our Amsco picker, we already have a button that selects all of Hercules, right? And we can, let's close this so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Let me do this one more time. Okay, let me open that up. Okay. And just so you guys remember, when you open up your body mech picker, you need to change the namespace to the current character you are using. In this case, it's Hercules. So you do that by picker, change namespace, and Hercules. So I'm gonna make some buttons down here in A Tools to refresh you guys' memory on how to do that. These tools are very handy. So I'm going to go ahead and select all the controls here on Hercules. And if I zoom out, you'll see they're all selected. So I'm going to come down here to this button. Do you see where my cursor is? Down here on the bottom where the A tools are. And select this. And I'm going to hit the plus sign. And I'm going to say all Herc. I'm going to make it orange. Okay, so that's a button that if you don't have this Amschool picker selected, you can just select it down here. Now we need to make one for all the hammer. So I'm going to turn off all the controls on Hercules, and I'm going to hide Hercules geometry. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hide the locators, and then I'm going to drag select over the hammer, and I'm going to make one that's blue, and we'll call it all hammer. Okay. So now we also need to make one that's only the locators. So I'm going to hide the curves, and I'm going to hide the polygons, and I'm going to show the locators. So these are all of our locators. They're all one on top of each other. So I'm just going to drag select all three locators, and you can see they're all highlighted over here, so we know that all three of them are in our selection set. I had to do that again because I had accidentally selected the light rig. So this is just all three of the locators. So I'm going to make a button, and I'll make it red. And I'll say all lokies. Okay, so I'm going to go back up here and turn on the polygons and the NURBS curves. And over here with my display layers, I'm going to turn the controls back on for Hercules, and I'm going to display the geometry for Hercules. So now we have everything in our scene again. So say we want to set a keyframe here. This is one of our main keyframes. We need to make sure that we save a key on all of these controls. So I'm going to select all hammer. I'm going to shift select all Hercules and all Lokis. So now I have everything that is important for creating this pose selected. I'm going to hit S. And I messed up my, there's some weird bug with the Amschool picker and I keep losing my labels. But I can, if this happens to you, if you're on a Mac or even a PC and you lose your labels on your Amschool picker, there's an easy fix for it. Just go ahead and open the picker again. Select this. And we'll make sure the namespace is Hercules. We'll say okay. Whatever you do, you just don't want to close it and write over it. As long as you don't save the changes that were made, it's all good. So now as you see, as he goes to pull, and see I made some adjustments to the grip here, they're stuck together. If I wanted to continue posing and have him lift the hammer, I need to remember to animate this top locator. So you're going to want to select the locator from over here in the outliner, because, and you could probably just go ahead and turn the locators off. Because if you just drag select, and I'll show you the problem that would happen if you were to do that. If you drag select, you're actually selecting all three of these. And that's going to create compound rotations because it's actually, and they're all children of each other, and so it's going to create a mess. Whatever you do, do not do that. So let's just go ahead and hide those locators by deselecting them here in the show menu in your viewport. And when you come time to lift this hammer up, make sure you select this top locator for manipulating your hammer and save your keys on this. Although, you know what? Let me Z out of that. Because look, this could have been tragic. I actually didn't have a key on here at frame 1. So I'm going to go back here to frame 1. Hit S. go over here to frame 40 and hit S. We can also create a button by selecting all hammer, shift, all Hercules, shift select all low keys, and then come over here and hit plus and say all scene. Make that one green. This way, and just to make sure that we're preserving what we have in these two poses that we already like, I'm going to go ahead and select all scene. I'm going to hit S here and S here. So now I know that there's keys on all of the controls and all of the channels. So if I go in and I create more keyframes within here, I will still have these two poses and not mess it up. So I hope that that helps you guys. If you have any questions, just send me an email, and I'll see you guys in class. Bye.